Welcome to another Lombardi Live. On Drum Channel, we often talk about the 3 P's, which is patience, practice, and perseverance. And my special guest today, Career, definitely includes all 3 of those. He also said that English was his second language. However, I'm going to talk with him about English being his third language, because I think his first language is drumming. Aquiles Priester, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we are going to talk about that because it's interesting. You know, we talk a lot about how you should be sitting behind the drum set and having a conversation with the other players in the band or even with the audience. But I've never thought until earlier today when you said, you know, English is my second language. It'd be interesting to talk about how you approach playing the drums and speaking to the other people in the group.
I remember once when I was watching Dom Famularo doing a clinic in Brazil, and he said, like, the music is universal. It doesn't matter what kind of language do you speak or you understand. When you play drums, everyone can understand. So that was really cool.
It may literally have been your first language, or close to it, because you started playing drums at a very early age, right?
Yeah, actually, I started playing drums like in 1985. I was 14 years old, and that was because the first Rock in Rio festival that was happening in Brazil at that time. And then I saw a drummer playing on the TV. That was João Baroni, that played in the band called Paralamas do Sucesso, that they are celebrating 40 years now that they still playing. They are a huge band in Brazil, and that guy, he got my attention when he was playing drums. So and then I set up in my backyard like a totally improvised drum set with cans, scalons, and I started playing that way. But my first class was just when I turned 21, and I was living in the south of Brazil in Porto Alegre, that I moved from Foz do Iguaçu, where I used to live until I was 18 years old, to try to get something like in the real music business. That's why I moved to Porto Alegre, and then I started having classes there.
And did you think at that point of the genre or the style of music you wanted to play? Did you have a favorite? Because me growing up in the earlier years, thinking of Brazilian music, it wasn't in the metal genre at all. It was, you know, the Latin genre. Bossa Nova was very popular.
Yes, in the beginning I was much more into the Brazilian rock from the 80s, and then in the middle of that time, like 85 and 86, I started listening to the heavy metal. And the first album that got my attention was Somewhere in Time from Iron Maiden. And that album from 1986 is still my favorite. And Iron Maiden is still my favorite band.
So at that point, how did you go about approaching getting your technique? It's always interesting for young drummers to learn about how many hours you practice, because they often think when they're looking at their superstar drummers that they aspire to be, just like when you saw Iron Maiden, you know.
Yeah.
It was like, you didn't think about, well, how did he get to where he was? How did he learn to play like that? How many hours a day did he practice? Just like, I want to do that.
Okay. So then when I moved to Porto Alegre in 1998, I was searching for a teacher, and then I started with Mimo Aires, that I studied with him for 8 months, and then he taught me how to play the rudiments and start reading. And then after him, I studied with Taba, another legendary drummer from the south of Brazil, for 4 months, because I was waiting for my chance to get classes with Kiko Freitas. That was my real master. And Kiko was the guy that showed me a different way how should I study drums. I remember back in the day, I was making classes with him. He was giving me classes, and I spent 6 to 7 months just playing on the pad. I was not able to get to the drum set and to play the entire drum set.
Listen to that. I'll say that one more time.
Yeah,
you spent 6 or 7 months just on a pad.
On the pad. If you are going to approach a student nowadays and say, hey, trust me, I can give you like the best way like the best path for you to understand the basics, and then you're gonna build your own style. That's what Kiko told me, and so we did this. But if you tell a guy nowadays that you're gonna stay 7 months just in the pad, he'll say, okay, I'm going to the YouTube and I'm gonna get everything for free there. But he can get something, but he will now not understand the basic of what those guys are playing. And what Kiko told me, he told me like, Achilles, I want you to learn what you are playing, to understand each note that you are playing. You must understand, because if you know this, then you can build your own style. You can create your style. So that was my, when I was talking to Kiko about the classes that I would like to have, I just told him, you're gonna be my sensei. So everything that you said, I'm gonna do this. And I won't make a question. I'm gonna just do it, but please, teach me this amazing technique that you have, because I want to play with this kind of technique into the heavy metal. So, and then he said, oh, this is totally new for me, because usually my students, they came here to learn bossa nova, Brazilian music, jazz, fusion, and you want to put all this style into the heavy metal. That's gonna be interesting. And then 25 years later, we are here talking about it.
No, what you just said is so important to the mantra and the mission of Drum Channel. We talk about this a lot. We look at, there's 3 main areas that we want to have drummers learn. There's how to play, what to play, and then why to play it. And what you just described is what we talk about a lot on Drum Channel. So many young drummers today jump right to what to play. Mm-hmm. They look at YouTube, they copy somebody. They can have a good time feel. They can be naturally, a talented musician, sitting with the drums and being able to copy what that person did. But the person who they're copying got that gig because he learned how to play, what he brought to the table, all of his experience. Mm-hmm. Just watching you and playing a cover of you, they might be able to copy exactly the beat that you're playing. Mm-hmm. But if they were to audition with the band, there's a difference between the way you played that beat and the way the next guy played the beat.
Absolutely, because we are so unique. We can have one drum set without changing any kind of tuning, and 10 drummers are gonna play in that drum set, and it's gonna be totally different.
As drummers, what makes us specifically unique, just what you're talking about, we're the instrument. So you're building it first. How you use your body, how you use your hands, how you use your feet. And then you take what you learn how to use, the instrument, kind of like you're building a piano or building a saxophone. Then it kind of goes in the hands of the player, you, the drummer, when you put on your hat and look at what you want to play. What you want to play is going to call on having a good instrument. No matter how good of a piano player you are, if some of the keys are not working, you're stuck. You're not going to be able to come to your full potential, in other words. So how to play is so important.
So this is something really, really funny, because a lot of people, when I'm doing clinics, they approach me with the question, what kind of technique do you use in your pedal? Are you moving your pedal this way? And then I said, they don't understand that the practice, like the daily practice, is gonna make like their feet understand where they should play, the way that should play. But they just want to play it as fast as they can. So you have to build speed, like going like step by step. And they need to understand that my body is one kind of body, and their body is totally different from each drummer. So we cannot play like Thomas Lang, like Dave Lombardo, like Nico, because we are different people. We can try to play that kind of stuff, but if we don't understand the basic, like where those ideas come from, we will never get there.
Yeah, you almost learn how to play those things by building the fundamentals first.
Absolutely.
And then automatically you hear it and you can play what you want to hear.
Exactly.
Back to the language thing again. Mm-hmm. It then becomes a language.
Yeah.
You hear something, whatever you want to say. You don't have to think about what you're saying now. If you want to say it in English, it just it registers with you.
Yeah.
Comes out.
Just came out, yeah.
Yeah, we have a metronome that I've recently patented that's recently on Drum Channel. and it does exactly what you're talking about, which sounds a little bit funny, but you would like this. So I designed a metronome based off of what teachers used to, like Murray Spivak and Freddie Gruber and a lot of the luminary teachers, used to have their students practice, just like you're saying. You want to start at one tempo and then move it up a little bit, every day. So the metronome, you can set it at whatever BPM you want at the beginning. The default is 120. So you pick a rudiment, you start at 120. You can set the amount of time. The default is 5 minutes. So in 5 minutes, it'll actually speed up 3 or 4 or 5 BPM, whatever you set.
That's amazing. That's what I used to do by cassette players.
Yeah, you'd have to do it and then write it down and everything. So, so it also remembers where you were with every rudiment. So if you could go back to the flam in a week, and it would say, okay, last week you got it at 140, so you can't cheat. You want to go back, move it up 3 BPM in 5 minutes, 3 BPM another 5 minutes. So 15 minutes is the practice routine. And the key to that was always staying relaxed. If you're not relaxed, then you're not using your body in the most fluid way.
I have a very good story about this metronome speeding up, because back in the day, like, the money was really short, but I used to buy gear in a store in Porto Alegre. So I went there and I asked to the manager if I could use the metronome and record with my Walkman. And he said, okay, you can do this because you are a really good customer. So I was doing 5 minutes, 100 BPMs. And I was holding the Walkman like that, okay? 5 minutes, 105 BPMs. So that's the way that I was studying at that time. But nowadays you have this all online for free, and people, they don't know how to use this kind of technology, No. So back in the day, you need to find a way to study what you want. Like when I started playing double bass in 1997, at that time, you couldn't have a DVD, just cassette videotapes at that time, There was no YouTube where you can search for any kind of drummer that you want. So sometimes YouTube is really good, but sometimes it's too much because people don't know what to pick, what to choose to study, So it's kind of mess up for the kids.
Yeah, I think back to YouTube is showing you what to play, and the more you can look at what you can play as you develop your technique, the more of a vocabulary you get, which is great. Then, like you turn it into your own style. You've taken your roots, turned it into a certain style, which has made you a very popular drummer amongst that genre. We're going to talk about a lot of the products that you have out here too, DVDs and books. You've done a great job of being an educator also. So
this is something that I always explain when I'm doing a class or in my books or in my DVDs. I always show to the people what I had to create back in the day to study, because at that time I didn't have something or to get something from another drummer that was doing something that I would like to do. So I had to find the right tools to create exercises, and that's how I believe that this can work and this can help people, because if it helps me, so I'm a creation of my exercises, of my basic exercises. So, and this is the same thing that I'm still doing nowadays. And every time when I have to warm up before the show, I use the same exercises, the same kind of stuff. So I know that it works.
Do you have a warm-up routine in one of your books or DVDs?
Yes, I have in this one. Basically, this is about double bass, but of course, I always tell people that there's no way for you to study double bass without having a good hand technique, because it's a kind of conversation. You cannot just be an amazing double bass player if your hands are not in the same level, because everything when you play drums, it's about balance. Everything is about balance. So in this one, I use exercise that I learned with Kiko Freitas about triplets.
Also, single pedal technique is really good to have before you get to double pedal, right?
This is totally true. And I always tell people, my first double bass exercise ever, it's without playing with double bass. You play everything with the right foot and then with the left foot, and then you put both together, you know, and then you start moving. Because when you start playing drums, it's normal for everyone. You start playing with your right foot a lot. And sometimes when you go to the right cymbals, you are not using like the left foot on your hi-hat to keep the tempo. So when you buy a double pedal, the first thing that you want to play, it's 16 notes. But your left foot is not ready to get there. So you have to bring the left foot, actually not to the same level, but as close as possible. And then you can start working. And my main exercises for double bass, I always lead with my left foot. So that's the way that
intentionally, for practicing or for when you're actually playing also?
Actually, there's a lot of exercises that I show in my DVDs that I play there, that people can see, oh, in this song, he's using his exercises. So everything that I teach is something that you can apply to the music. It's not those kind of exercises that it's just independence, but you cannot think, how can I put this into the music? So my exercises, they are totally musical.
And the double bass, on that subject, wearing my other hat here as an inventor back in the day, when we were perfecting the double bass pedal, and double bass drum was popular. Of course, the opportunity of having a double bass pedal become popular was because you didn't have to buy another bass drum and you didn't have space for it and you didn't have time for it. But it doesn't have to be used as part of what you're saying, you know, 16th note or 32nd notes, the end of the song. It can be used the same way you would use your hands, where you're going to have a different sound if you play two with one hand or one with each other hand.
Absolutely.
So my really quick story, once I had got the double bass pedal to the point to where I felt we could market it and put it out. This was 1982. I called my dear friend Jim Keltner, and he was one of the first people to test it for us, along with Chad Wackerman and a few others. So I said, we're going to do an ad in Modern Drummer, and I'd like to have a quote from you for the ad. So in those days, you know, nothing was done, you know, on the internet. It was all snail mail. You would mail things back and forth. So time went by, and I didn't hear from Jim. I call him up again on the telephone, regular telephone, dialing it. And say, you know, could I have a little quote? You know, time went by. I said, look, I need a quote here. I got to get it in the mail to them, you know, today. And he's a busy guy, and I figured he's trying to come up with something really cool. So I said, what would you say as a quote? And he says, yeah, I got it. I said, okay, what is it? You have two hands and you have 2 feet. I said, yeah. He said, that's why you need a double pedal, because you got 2 feet, you should be able to play 2 bass drums with it. But it was such a simple answer. And the point was, and the way he uses it is not technically at all. It's just when you want to have something that you can't do with one, sound the same with one pedal as you could with 2 pedals, which is, you know, you use it in a very musical way from what I've heard, and you can also use it as part of the solo at the end also.
Yes, exactly. There's something that I can tell about my kind of drumming, that I can play interesting grooves just with one pedal, using the opening hi-hat, the splashes, the rides, the china. I love to incorporate layers when I'm playing, you know? So, and sometimes you can do this kind of interesting drumming without a double bass. But sometimes you want to use the double bass in that kind of speed, and then you have to be ready. So my practice routine it's basically every day. I play drums every day, and I know metal drummers that they don't play that hard every day to save the body. But for me, like when I'm playing a lot every day, I'm getting to that point that when I have to play, it doesn't matter if I'm not feeling okay, if I'm tired, if I haven't eaten yet, I'm gonna be able to play, because here I know that I'm able to play in all those kind of situations.
I'd have to say, if you're worried about overplaying, playing too much because you might be hurting your body, something to look at would be how you're using your body in order to play. Because if it's flowing and you're always relaxed, It would be just like a great exercise routine. Shouldn't be something that you should be worried about giving you, problems in the future. And that's where the foundation comes in of learning how to play, I think, on a pad. I think of Brooks Wackerman right off the top of my head, who can play really hard and play really fast and is completely relaxed.
Yeah.
He's not going to hurt himself and not even going to be that much worn out at the end of a period of time. I talked a little earlier about how you play and what you play. Here's a big question for you, and this is a hard one to answer, but it's really important for young drummers, especially if you're learning how to play on YouTube, because you might be putting a lot of hours in without being in a band. Then you get into a band, so you learn how to play, what to play, then why do you play it? You might be able to play a lot more than you actually played on that track, but that's the conversation. What would you have to say? A point in your life, maybe when you learned, or somebody said, hey, maybe you're overplaying, or when you learned to become a real musician?
Yeah, this is something that I don't like that sentence, like less is more, because in my kind of drumming, more is more and less is less. But when you are playing your music in your band, you can do whatever you want because it's your stuff. But when you are hired from some other artist and they want you to play something specific, you have to understand that it's your part in that job, in that band. And overplay there, or maybe when you are rehearsing with them, you are playing in a different way. And when you start the show, you are playing like you are overplaying. So it means that you are not professional enough to be there and to understand what that band needs from you and what the market needs from you. So this is something that I was talking earlier today, that sometimes the best thing in the world is it's like you have your band and you have your band with your friends, and then you guys grow up together and you can make that band happen or not. But when it comes to music business in the world, you have to think that sometimes those guys, they don't want to put the same kind of hard work that you are putting into your music and into your instrument. So sometimes it's something that's gonna happen, that you're gonna have to move on and try to find another band, another job, or another artist that can hire you. You can make a living playing music the way that you wanted when you were 15 years old. And sometimes your band, like the passion that you have for that kind of music for your friends, that will never happen because you don't have a good manager, you don't have the understanding of that market, and mostly, sometimes the people, they are not in the same vibe that you are when you are trying to make things happening. The other guys, they are hanging around, they are messing up, they are not working as hard as you are doing. So sometimes you just have to move on if you want to make a living playing music.
Let me ask, you're in several very popular bands, have been through the years. Do you approach them from the standpoint of being, I'm going to go in and do what I do? Because obviously they want you because of your reputation. Or as you're just saying, do you approach some of those bands a little differently than others in terms of what you might play?
Yeah, sometimes there are some bands that invite you to make an audition, and they said, we just want you to play the songs exactly like we have the songs recorded back in the day. So you listen to the original track from studio and you play that. We don't want you to do your stuff. And I said, okay, that's totally fine. But sometimes people hire you and say, no, we have this record, we want you on tour after this record, so do what you're gonna do. Just make sure that you can play this live then.
So you've learned that lesson probably on a few occasions, right?
Yeah. I'm an old school guy. I like long takes. I don't like going piece by piece or every 4 bars like the young drummers or YouTube drummers. I'm the old school drummer. So the thing that I'm playing inside a studio, if that is not easy, it's gonna be like worse to play live when you are touring, when you are tired, when you are not having time enough to rest. So I have a statement that I always use. If I'm not able to play this in studio, I'm pretty much sure that it's gonna be worse when I'm playing live. So this is something that if I can play in studio, okay, let's skip this. But many times you got some engineers or producers, then they said, no, just play the way that you can play. We can fix this, and then everything's gonna be fine. But when you have that kind of problem with a part in that music, when you're gonna play that song live, like 3 or 6 months later, you're gonna remember that you had a hard time playing that into the studio. So that's gonna be a kind of nightmare, a ghost for you forever in your head.
So you want to say to the producer at that time or the engineer, that's okay. Are you going to be on the road with me to fix it when I'm in Dallas next June, right?
Yeah. But this is how the modern metal music happens nowadays. They just think much more about what's gonna happen inside the studio, and then they won't be there when you have to play that live.
Talk to me a little bit about all these great projects that you've had through the years and how young drummers could take advantage of them in their career. If they're just starting out and they've got pretty good technique, maybe they've studied for a year or so, what would you suggest they get into?
Okay, so this one, it's really good for double bass. The name is inside my Psycho book, 100 double bass patterns. So basically, I show them all my approach about double bass drumming. It comes with audio CD here, and this is one of my best sellers. This is the 3rd edition. This one is a play along with the hardest songs that I ever record. All the scores are here, and you also have the original backing tracks from studio, so you can make your videos, you can do your stuff.
So are those literal transcriptions or charts of the songs? It's actually what you played.
Transcriptions, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're not that good of a reader, you could just listen to them and try and copy
Yeah, exactly.
them. Right?
Yeah, that's the...
Because I'm sure reading is going to be, thinking of how you play sometimes technically in a musical context, reading it is going to be a challenge.
It is. But I think like the metal guys, they prefer to learn like by hearing.
That's what I'm thinking. They could do that with this book also.
Yeah, this is much more for you. If you have a doubt in that part, and if you don't have a video of your favorite artist playing that song, then you can read the charts and you can try to figure it out. But for this kind of drumming, when you have a big drum set, it's important to see a video because then you can see how the guy is playing. But it's funny when someone make a drum cover, like especially those ones that I don't have a video out yet. It's funny because sometimes they play exactly the same thing that I played, but in a different way. So this is really cool because it shows like when you want to play something and you have the right tools, you can play that in your way, and it's gonna sound great. The same thing, yeah.
We'll challenge Elias, who's producing the show for us here today, who's a great drummer. When you come up next time, let's flip a page open because he's an amazing sight reader.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Okay, Elias, you got to check this book. You're going to have some time to check that book out, and we'll do it next. So,
okay.
And back in the day, talking about history, it was VHSs that first came out. That was the first opportunity anybody had. Mm-hmm. And before that, for me, it was records, which was again brought up an interesting subject of learning to play by seeing somebody or learning to play by listening to somebody. Let's talk about that in a minute. But
okay,
for videos, what do you have?
So this one, it's the latest one that is out. I record this one inside the Harman Experience Center.
Amazing.
Basically, yeah, this is from the bands Hangar and Nocturnal, videos that I never played like before. And this one is the one that I'm working.
That's available by whom?
This is available by Hudson Music.
Hudson Music, great,
yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. And this one, it's the. With this one, this one is really special because I won the Reader's Pool, Modern Drummers Reader's Pool back in 2014. So this is my best seller because everyone wants to know like a new drum fill. So I put 125 drum fills here. It's called top 100 drum fill, but I have 25 more like bonus.
I think you have more than that, but now those
are
your drum fills or your
no, this is my drum fills.
Oh, no, okay, great.
Yeah, this is drum fills that I played into the songs from 2000 to 2013.
Great, and they're 2, 4. How long are the fills? Are they?
Sometimes like 6 bars, sometimes 3 bars, sometimes. People can. I didn't put the names of which song belongs to each of those drum fills, but the hardcore fans, even that I'm playing like a ways lower, they recognize from which song it comes from. Yeah.
I think we'll have you come to Drum Channel and give us like 10 of them, and then we'll get an idea of how to do it. That would be fun.
Yeah, and this one, it's also really cool for double bass technique. And these 2 DVDs, it was out by Mel Bay.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And this is the one that I'm working now. That is from the Veracruz album that I record with my friend Edu Falaschi from Angra Times. So this is
not out yet?
No, it's not out yet. I'm working in the final editions. And this is basically, I'm playing all the songs of the record and I'm talking about the songs and like the way that I approach to make the arrangements. And also we have a lot of footage from the recording sessions. And I also put like a new double bass lesson here that it's called Unraveling Aquiles Priester's double bass technique. So I'm talking about all the details, that I never talked before. So it's a very complete double bass lesson, about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Going back to when you first started learning.
Yeah, exactly. And here I'm talking like much more deeply about the way that I set up the exercises and how I play nowadays as well. So this is a good material that probably is going to be out in the beginning of January.
Quite a library,
Yeah, it is, and this is something that I find out around 2003, 2004, that I supposed to be the owner of my products. So every time when I have someone working with me, they are not manufacturing. They are just I just use them as a dealer to get to the music stores, but I manufacture, so I have the control of all the pieces.
And when you take a look at what you're going to play, getting back to how you play, what you play, why you play it kind of, and the idea of practice, patience, and perseverance. In your career path, what have been your biggest challenges, would you say? For keeping going and
the age.
Think.
Yeah, the age.
I can say that's one of my bigger challenges nowadays too. So we share that.
Yeah, because when you are 35, 38, and you are a double bass player, it's something, But when you are 50 already, you have to pay much more attention in what you are doing. And the things, like all the records that I record with Angra, with Hangar, back in 2000, the songs, they still hard to play nowadays. And especially this album here, Veracruz, that is the hardest kind of drumming that I ever put into an album, because during the pandemic era, I was into my studio every day for 4 to 5 hours for 8 months. In 20 years, I never spent 8 months in my house. So I was getting advantage of this time to practice more. So I can say that now, with 51 years old, I'm a much more better drummer than when I was 38 or 40, because since I start in the music business in 2001 as to be a professional musician, I never had 8 months just to practice. I was always practicing, touring, practicing, recording, touring, but I never had 8 months. So I take a very good advantage of that time.
Imagine how good you're going to be by the time you're 70. That's even that much more time.
Yeah,
No.
this is true.
Very exciting. And what's coming up in the touring situation?
So I have this upcoming tour with W.A.S.P that we're gonna start. It's gonna be something like 35 dates just in the United States. And I'm so excited because it's gonna be the first time that the band is playing into the United States in 12 years. So all the tickets are pretty much sold out, and I'm looking forward to do this tour because that's gonna be the first time that I'm gonna do. That's gonna be the first time that I'm gonna do a major tour. I was playing with Tony MacAlpine until 2017, and we played some good tours here. We were touring with Steve Vai as an opening act, but now it's gonna be the first time that I'm gonna be the headliner in a big band. So it's gonna be awesome.
I had a great interview here with Terry Bozzio and Steve Vai recently. And,
Really?
Interviewed Tony when he was out here a few years back. I believe he said he doesn't read,
Yeah.
which was amazing to me.
Yeah.
It's just like
He's a genius.
he is a genius.
Yeah,
no.
I remember like when we were touring, because I played with Tony from 2012 to 2017. So every time when we got into the venue, the first thing that he wants to set up was his keyboard so he could start playing. Why the drum tech was setting up the drum kit, why the roadies were working, like to set up the stage, he was already playing keyboard. So he is one of those guys that I can say that he has that passion for music, you know. Yeah,
and can hear it and
he's a
retain
genius.
it. It's the genius side, no
Yeah.
question, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about writing, how do you approach that, and how important is it for young drummers to learn beyond just playing the drums, to be able to learn the theory and harmony of music?
I think it's very important. You can say that it's just like reading different books. Like when you know how to read, you can search wherever you want to read. So it's the same with music books. If you want to study Aquiles technique, Thomas Lang technique, Terry Bozzio's technique, you get into that book and you will understand. So it's really important. It gives you a lot of much more ways to do what you want to do.
And beyond that, I was thinking just writing music of your own as a composer.
Okay.
How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I play a little bit of acoustic guitars, and in my own band, Hangar, I usually write the melodies, the lyrics, and also I'm the main composer of all the songs because we usually write music as an old school band. We jam. Yeah, and so then we can feel if those ideas are good, if we are enjoying. Nowadays, a lot of bands, they are doing music by internet, and then when they start rehearsing the songs after the album is out, they just realize that songs, they don't work when you are playing live. So I prefer to get the feel when I'm writing the music.
So did you study legitimately how to play guitar or piano or?
No, just a little bit of acoustic guitar.
Interesting.
Just to help me with the melodies.
Great. Well, you've sure been very successful with everything that you've done.
Yeah, I can't complain.
You're a great example for the kids out there, because I think
that's amazing.
A big part of your career, I think, was the perseverance to keep going, because it wasn't. You didn't come from an area that was Hollywood or America even. So how you make your mark and then are able to expand.
That was funny because when I made a promise in 1986 for the Aquiles Priester that was 15 years old. I said, I'm gonna make my life as a heavy metal drummer, not just like a drummer. As a heavy metal drummer, I'm gonna travel all around the world, and I must know in person Nico McBride. That was my goal as a teenager. So I can say that life has been really good, but I work really hard. You always receive my drum clinics picture, and you were one of those guys that always replying saying, "Well, Aquiles, this is amazing." You, Dom, and a few other people. So you know, all those clinics I set up by myself. I call the music stores, the school music, and I make pretty much door deal because I know that the people gonna be there. I have my own minibus in Brazil park that I use just for my clinics. So, and we carry all the gear, the PA system, my monitors, all the microphones, my huge drum set. We have I have a really cool merchandising that helps me to put all the tours together. So it's a lot of work, but people, they respect everything that I have been doing for the Brazilian music, especially since 2001 when I joined Angra. So, and I can say that I'm very happy because I play in the most important drum festivals around the world, like London Drum Show, Modern Drummer Festival, First Drumeo, and I perform more than 500 clinics already. So I'm very happy.
No, and well deserved. And a great story. The way you had it happen in your life is by making it happen yourself.
Exactly. Because when you join like the real music business in Brazil and you have a manager, then you just realize after 6 months that nothing gonna happen with your career as a musician. You can happen as a band, like as a member of a band, but to grow as a musician, you have to do it by yourself when the band is not playing. That's how that click happened for me in 2002. And then I start like teaching, I start doing master classes and drum clinic at that time.
No, I think that is something that came to my mind when you said you were able to come out here and do an interview with us, was that your career to me was like as a drummer, and then there's a list of all these great bands that you played with. There's a lot of musicians just like they're the drummer in the band, which is what made them popular.
Yeah.
Well, you've played with great bands, which are very popular themselves. But you did exactly what you just said, which is a great lesson, I think, for drummers out there too. Take charge of your own career. Don't put it in the hands of a manager because you're with a band, and hope the band does good, and then you'll do good. Do good as a drummer, regardless.
Yeah. So this is something that I realize and I learned in an American company where I used to live, where I used to work in Brazil, called Dana Corporation. So there I was working as a marketing manager. So I learned how to create a brand, how to find the people that dig into what you are doing for that brand, and that's how when I show up, when I start my career in the music business in Brazil, I had this different approach from a company, from a marketing manager. So I think I was the first Brazilian drummer that put like a website, that find a way to create a logo, to have that logo and match that logo with the color that you are using in your posters and everything. So this is something that I learned from this company. So this was a kind of different approach. So this is something that the Brazilian guys, they always tell me, like I've learned a lot from you as a drummer and also as a businessman, you know?
Yeah, which drummers today, I'm sure you'll agree, have to look beyond their experience as learning the instrument. They have to learn technology.
Yeah.
You're very much involved with electronic drums and
social media as well. It's very important.
Social media, you have to be able to do a little bit of everything out there. And
I remember back in the day when I used to send to all my sponsors press kit with everything that I was doing, and nowadays they just want to take a look in how many followers you have. That's the most important thing. And if you engage people when you are doing stuff.
And give me an ad that's not more than 7 or 8 seconds, right?
Yes, this is something that you're gonna learn when you are into this business and when you are doing stuff. It's all about experience. Sometimes you are posting something or you are putting a small video that you don't know what's gonna happen, and that go viral. So you are always learning. And sometimes you are like putting a lot of work in one piece and you put that out, okay, now I'm gonna have the feedback of people, and nothing happened.
Well,
it's just like that.
You're carrying the torch, I would say that. And you're blazing a trail and doing it in the right way, and it's obviously, you know, the way we encourage all young drummers to do it today. Back to patience, practice, perseverance, I guess.
Absolutely.
You've got all three of those.
Absolutely.
I can't thank you enough for joining me here today.
My pleasure. It's an honor to be here.
Look
Thank
forward
you so much.
to many more occasions when we can get together. I know you're out there for a long time, but you'll have some breaks out on the road from time
Absolutely.
to time.
And also, thank you for the DW support. I really love the pedal, love the gear. As you know, double bass is a very important part of my drumming, and I couldn't make it without the double pedals. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That's the reason why I did it. It worked out great. A few years later here, but that worked out fine.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
so
you
much.
very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us, man.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.